Wild berry Skittles are the best.
Annoying.
That's my favorite.
Wild berries are pretty good. I like original, but there are some decent flavors. It just kind of depends on my mood. Like I like sour sometimes.
We should be recording this. What are we doing, guys?
Guys,
True.
I think we've been doing the wrong podcast for 3 years now. We should have been doing Skittles.
Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I'm the League Dad, and I am here with my awesome friends and co-hosts. First up, we've got one of the ARAM Kings on here. We've got Kevin Shee, man. How are you doing? How was your weekend? Did you have a good Memorial Day?
Yeah, I had a good Memorial Day. I lost a lot of sleep. I actually just watched MSI live, the finals. I just wanted to see it. And
Nice.
I predicted Game 5, but man, when it got to Game 5, I was like, that's so late in the day, man. So I really am looking forward to just N8 times for Worlds.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's been so long.
Yeah, that's going to be real good to be able to view it on our actual time and not have to watch VODs unless you want to kill your sleep schedule.
I feel like it's been like 5 years or something, 4 or 5 years since we've had an event here in or just regular hours.
Yeah, it's going to be hype. I can't wait. Cool. So, Alistair, how are you? I see you're still in the Bat Cave. Very, very nice. You look pretty comfortable. How are you doing, my friend?
Chilling. Not much been going on. Playing a lot of solo queue after the new patch dropped.
Nice.
Getting ready to go to LA for top HC LOL. So looking forward to that.
Great, man. That's exciting. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the durability patch. I know you've got a lot of thoughts on that. I think we all have. We've all been kind of experimenting with stuff, so I can't wait to see what you guys have been experimenting with. But Mitchell, how are you, my friend? Are you getting all settled up there in Seattle?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm still unemployed and not doing anything. So
Nice.
it's been pretty chill, but also kind of weird because it feels like days and time have no meaning to me. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm just existing. But I wanted to ask Alistair, how long are you staying in LA? I imagine not super long because I'm going to be there in July 1st. A week? Okay, well, never mind. 'Cause I'm actually going to LA for July 4th weekend, but that's okay. That's okay.
That's all right. We tried. I mean, that's good. We tried. One of these days, maybe Worlds. I don't know. Maybe we'll all meet up. I know we've talked about it several times.
Live episode.
Live episode. If anybody's listening and would like to fund this trip, we'd be more than happy to. We'd be more than happy to take.
Random rich entrepreneurs who just love our podcast for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you didn't accidentally come here from what you thought was a poker podcast, because I know a lot of people are like, the All In Podcast, that's a poker podcast. Nah, it's not. And so yeah, if you're that guy. It is, but it's a gamble for sure with LCS. But anyways, all right. Well, we got to talk about MSI. Personally, I got to get your thoughts, but personally, I loved the finals right up to Game 5. But we'll talk about that. But other than that, I mean, pretty much as I expected. I know some people here mentioned G2 pulling out maybe a win over T1, but I knew that it was going to be that way. But anyways, either way, it was a good matchup, and I was excited overall. Just a little disappointed at Game 5. But what'd you guys think?
Yeah, I thought the semifinals pretty boring. Like I think EG put up a good fight. All in all, the fact that we lost to the winners, that's good for us, you know. And we put up a better fight than G2 did against their opponents. No transitive property stuff, just not bad. First 4 games I thought were good. I thought they were like really entertaining. And then Game 5 I was just like, that was the first time in a long time where I sat there like, no, we win. Like the RNG's gonna win this. I predicted 3-2, and I'm like, I wish I wasn't right about this because this is just dumb. This is the worst draft I've seen in a long time. I will say some of the other most entertaining parts about MSI were the days after and the drama that followed, but I think we can talk about that a little later.
Yeah, you were the only one. I think you had the closest predictions out of everyone because you said 3-1 T1 over G2, and then you predicted 3-2 RNG. So congrats to you. You made the
3-0 RNG over G2.
3. Yeah, so that's right. I mean,
I was one match off.
Why?
I know.
I gave G2 too much credit.
Kevin is too logical because that just made sense, but the rest of us, I think. I had a little hopium on T1 just because of the faker narrative. I wanted that to happen. But either way, congrats to your predictions. What about you, Alistair? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Kevin wants to say he gave G2 too much credit. Mitchell and I think we gave him a bit too much credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was very surprised that I expected more, to be honest, out of that semi. I mean, RNG, EG, that I don't think anyone really expected, or legitimately expected,
Yeah.
EG to take a game or realist. I said legitimately, Mitchell. I know
Mitchell's mad right now. Mitchell's like,
I'm
what the
upset.
heck?
there's a reason I said legitimately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. The final reminded me of the third place match in 2016 of CLG and Immortals
Mm.
summer finals, where there's 4 really close games, and game 5 was just one-sided, just smashed them in 25 minutes. Pretty disappointing. I mean, we'll get to the game 5 draft. There's
Yeah.
gonna be a lot of flaming on this podcast
Oh
on this
yeah.
episode, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's
so
going to
it
be a
feels
lot of flame because in the Discord, as the game was out, we were like, "What the heck is this draft, man?" Like the whole
Yeah.
time. But yeah, Mitchell, what were your thoughts, man?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty disappointed that things didn't go how I predicted, honestly, because that was a big bummer. But if I'm being honest, I
I
was
feel
pretty
you.
high on Copium last podcast. I was like on the moon on Copium.
You were,
So
but that's
any
cool.
predictions made under a duress state cannot be held in a court of law. I don't know.
All
That
right.
was pretty rough. I definitely think that if I was like, not an EG fan, yeah, 3-0 RNG, obviously anybody would have predicted that. But G2 was surprising. I mean, I wasn't gonna say, like, I think me and Alistair, we did 3-2, right? So we thought it was gonna be close.
Hmm.
It was not even close, and I think that even T1 believers would have thought that it was uncharacteristically bad from G2, right? They always put up a good fight against Korea, and they didn't. They kind of just felt like, besides that one miracle play from Broken Blade on Orin, that G2 wasn't really alive. Like,
Yeah.
Caps was actually getting smurfed on by Faker. So that the flash juke that you literally only see in like
Oh
the highlight
yes.
videos was so hilarious to watch. Oh my god, I couldn't stop laughing. And I actually like watched that, not like live, but I was like maybe like an hour ahead because I woke it up early. I could not stop laughing. Oh my god, that was so funny. I can't believe
It's
Faker did
great.
that. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, it just screams this format needs updating because 2-3-0 semifinals into, yeah, like a pretty exciting game, like 5-game series, but
Hmm.
like it just clearly wasn't enough, right? I could
Yeah.
tell on all the social media, people are pretty just like very whelmed,
Hmm.
close to underwhelmed about this entire tournament. So
Yeah, and I hope that doesn't take away from RNG's win because I know there was, all the way leading up to this, the whole fact that, there were special accommodations made for them. People were complaining about that and that we had to do this ping now because of that. And then them winning. And then, I just hope that it doesn't take away. It shouldn't take away because RNG has broken the record. Like they have the most MSI wins. They beat T1 for that, in this finals to beat that record. So I think that's pretty amazing, and I hope it doesn't take away anything from them. And we could talk a little bit more about them, but I did want to point out some things as far as T1 that and in that series, really. But first, I just got to give my hats off to Faker. I mean, no surprise, like. Holy crap, that guy made some highlights, man. Like, you talk about the Tristana plays that he had with his Gale Force and Flash. Like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, I think I put in the Discord, this man's playing ADC better than his ADC. And it was pretty insane to watch. And then his Lissandra into the Baron pit. I mean, like, Faker had some really big plays, and it's just so cool to see at his level, like at his veteranship, he's still making these most impactful plays for his team. And so that was one thing I wanted to just spotlight and just give my kudos again to the GOAT because it was just another awesome performance from him. What other thoughts did you guys have on T1 or that series, the finals? Because again, pretty close up until that game 5. You can even dip into that draft now if you want to, but let's just open up that series. Let's open up that series.
Yeah. Let's open up that series. That game 5 was atrocious. If you guys weren't watching, let's just say they left Gwen up again, which Ben went 13-0 in game 1 with, by the way.
Yeah.
They left Gwen up, and then they went Ari Wukong with Lissandra up, which Lissandra was picked by Faker in the same series
Yep.
and was proven to be a very good matchup. I think Xiaohu was insane on Lissandra this series.
Yes.
Like I think that the way he initiated and just like burned summoners and just coordinated with the way, like they were just next level. And Faker even like had a really good game too with it. So like I just can't believe that they went through that draft and thought that was fine. But I think the thing that sticks out to me the most from T1 is afterwards where their head coach or one of their, I don't know if he's head coach, but Pult is a coach on their team. And he says we all played really well. The only thing is that we didn't get blue side 3 times.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And I was like, I'm just gonna put it out here. Before the finals, guys, the win rate was about like 50-50 actually between red and blue. Also, EG beat T1 on red side when T1 was blue side. So is it just me? NA is that much better than Korea that we can overcome this insurmountable thing? No, it doesn't. It's a terrible excuse. I can't remember in history for a long time where I've heard a Korean team, especially one as storied as T1, make such an awful PR statement.
Yeah, it's
like,
terrible.
Quick context, Pult is a legend in StarCraft 2. Like he was extremely good in StarCraft 2. He won the Super Tournament. He won a couple other like GSLs and stuff like that. He is an extremely smart guy. He was a pro player, a top pro player in StarCraft 2 while going to the best university in Korea at the same time. And he's also a top TFT player, but I mean, not as big of a deal. So this guy, it's very out of character for him to say something like this. But
StarCraft
I just thought
StarCraft is much more side selection based, so maybe he's just incredibly biased and has.
He might just be saying like fact, like to him it's facts, right? And the last thing I want to leave on for this little thing is Zeus said that the ping didn't matter. He didn't feel it, and he also played probably the best individually on his team throughout the series. Because Gumi Yusi died to everyone in the tournament now. Past the bubble stage.
Yeah.
I would say if Game 5 Faker was so bad that I would have to give it to Zeus.
That was rough,
yeah. To be fair, they all look bad. Like I don't think Jace can ever survive. We'll go on to Alistar's point first, but I don't think Jace can survive when all your lanes are losing. Like Carrier. Oh, also Carrier picked Yuumi. He decided this, by the way. He said in an interview that he wanted Yuumi in that position. So it's not even the coach's fault. This is actually just boneheaded pro players summit tier drafting with Jace in Game 5 after losing Game 1. Just go, Alistar, please. Just save me.
Just save him right now. He's about to have a meltdown.
So I think I agree with her saying. The other thing I wanted to bring up, it kind of ties back to the semifinals. I was very confused on why Gumayusi didn't pick Xayah a single time in finals, especially against some of these comps. They won both games they played on it, or maybe it was all 3. Did he play 3 games in semis? It was just 2, right? I think. I don't have it pulled up. But either way, he had 100% winner on Xayah, as far as I'm aware. And they're playing against comps that have like, Gwen and Lissandra and Viego. Xayah's pretty good. Xayah does pretty good into those champs, and just doesn't pick it. I don't know what to say. I wanted to say like he looked better after semis. He did show like he was turning his brain on a little more, but then Game 5, I don't know, maybe he just didn't want to play Xayah again. I couldn't tell you. I mean, maybe it's the same issue as Carrier playing Yuumi, but I couldn't tell you.
I definitely think the drafting was super sus. The jungle. I mean, they picked Wukong every single game, right? But after a certain point, it does feel like Owner just is not a Wukong player. Right?
Yeah.
It did kind of feel like that throughout the entire series, where you're seeing him play, and it's like he's not bad or anything, but it always felt like you wanted more from Owner. So I wanted him on the Lee Sin or Viego, like Wei was getting. And it's not to say that Wukong is bad. Wukong is like S+ tier champion, but he is kind of predictable. Like he is kind of a stat check champion. He's very one dimensional, right? He goes in, he spins around. His outplaying is pretty minimal, right? And I think with a caliber player like Owner, just watching from the jungle, it felt like his team desperately needed that sort of X factor in the jungle that Wukong wasn't able to provide. So that was a bit of a bummer with the draft. I mean, we already talked about Game 5. I thought it was just the overall Lissandra just meta was so interesting. Didn't expect the pick to come out at all, but it's funny how it didn't feel like we figured this out during the regular season where RE was meta for so long. But the point and click champions that have been existed for ages have always been RE's counters, right? LeBlanc is a common one. Even Syndra is a pretty good counter to RE. Just like in terms of the game for the last like 10 years or so. So it was really cool to see Lissandra come out because I mean I'm not gonna say the champion is like terrible because it just won, but it's not a good champion right now. Like she suffers a lot and is only good as a counter pick into Ari.
Hmm.
So I thought it was neat. I will say it was completely boneheaded to keep picking Ari when it was
Yeah.
up. That just seemed really grief. And also just harking back to just like Xiaohu, man. That guy is so unbelievably good. He does have a style. He roams a lot. He gives up mid pressure to impact the map. So like people with those one-dimensional styles can be exploited, but God, he's just so good at it. I mean, Faker played well. I thought he played like some of the best on his team,
Yeah.
but it just kind of felt like he got a bit mid-gapped by Zahu just on the fact that he was everywhere. Zahu was actually just like a second jungler, and maybe even better. Like Wei was really good, but like, dude, he was a better jungler than his own
Wei was
jungler. Like
really good this
Wei,
series,
Wei
man.
was
He
so
gapped.
good.
Yeah.
But damn, dude, like I could not believe like Zahu. He was like, all right, I don't get Galio or Ari. I will play Lissandra, and I will do the same exact thing and make it look freaking miserable to play against. So,
Yeah, it was on
really,
repeat. They just ganked Faker over and over again. Timed his cleanse. I mean, there was just no hope for him.
it felt like yeah, it just felt like one of those like things where RNG is just playing so well. They have like every cooldown like downloaded and
Yeah.
memorized. They have every single like all the spacing that needs perfectly for this dive to work. It felt like their mechanics were just so unbelievably insane.
Yeah.
This team is crazy good. Like LPL mechanics are just on another level sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, man, there's so many things to unpack here actually because now that I'm thinking about it, Kevin, or I think it was, yeah, Kevin, you were saying that Zeus, was playing probably as one of the best people on the team. But I'd like to get your thoughts on that too, Mitchell, Alistair, and Kevin. You can dig into that as a little more too. But because I actually thought, yes, he had huge advantages CS wise, but he made some really dumb mistakes. Like I think in 2 different games, he saw their jungler, he saw Wei twice on wards, and
Oh, yeah.
still got ganked and died. I was like, and they already had the advantage. They had already burned a flash or something with owner, and they had the advantage. But then he'd just be, I don't know, kind of in this lull of not seeing the jungler and dying to dumb mistakes. And also, I did think he was trying to, ego a little bit, and some of these plays where he would kind of stay, it looked like he was trying to do the 1v2 and set up some kind of outplay, and it really just didn't seem to work. I just felt that even though he may have had a little advantage in lane, it didn't do anything. It didn't translate into anything. And yeah, I mean, the biggest sign of ego, you got stomped as Jace against Gwen in game 1. Why the heck are you? They picked Jace back into Gwen again in game 5. Like, to me, that's like just super ego. Like, that is not the champ. You thought you're gonna come back and do it this time. So let me get your thoughts more on him, because I actually wasn't a fan of Zeus's play, honestly. Even though he was getting those leads, he just felt like a big detriment to me.
I mean, it's just easy to put it this way. Yeah, he did make some bad plays, and he did was a detriment in the Jace game for sure. And then he had some other bad plays on the other Jace game, but he also solo won some of those games in my mind. Like that until that Lissandra play, like the GP was keeping them in the game in my mind. His GP got killed in the same game where he got killed, seeing the
Yeah.
jungler on a ward. He also just 2v1 them, and then Faker came in and helped clean up, right? He was playing, and the key point I want to drive home is no one else was playing better. Faker was the closest to me in my mind. I agree. However, he got gapped so hard in game 5 that I just cannot in good faith say he was the best player overall. That gap was, he was 0-4 or 0-3, and he ended the game 0-5-2 or something. It was not close. Keria was only good in my mind on his 2 Tom Kench games. His Morgana was an atrocity. His Morgana was one of us playing the Morgana.
Yeah,
Maybe worse in ARAM. He just could not hit bindings on slow characters. And his Yumi died level 1. His Yumi died level 1, guys.
Oh.
That I've never seen that before, at least in a pro game. So no one else was playing better. That's the problem. That's the problem with T1. Even though it was a 3-2, I honestly didn't think it was a very close 3-2. I watched the momentum of and especially in draft, but watching the momentum of the series, this felt like when Samsung lost to SKT in 2016. where it was a 3-2, but I was like, SKT was like winning in a lot of these things, and Samsung was like fighting tooth and nail to like get miracles to happen, like Faker causing a miracle at Baron, right? So to me, he's the best player of that series, and that says a lot.
I'm kind of with Kevin for the most part. I do think it just comes down to no one. It's kind of hard to argue anyone did better, and I think really the only counterpoint is that the top gap in game 1 was probably more massive than the mid gap in game 5. That would be my only counterpoint.
That's true.
But
That might
I
be
do
true,
think
actually.
it's close. But if I had to give it to one, I'd probably give it to Zeus just because of the Gangplank game.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Zeus. I'm calling it right now. Zeus is gonna be an NA import. He's already showing the common symptoms, right?
Damn!
Like,
Oh my
goodness.
He's already
Nine
like,
Zeus, I guess.
yeah, early
Oh
picking
my
Jace,
God.
running it down in side lanes.
First of
flashing
all,
into 1v2s.
First of all, Mitchell, you were our NA hopium and copium, and here you are insulting the man by saying he's an NA top laner.
Wait, we didn't say it
I'll
was an
take
insult
him.
yet.
Yeah,
I'll
true.
take him.
I mean,
I would take him. You're right.
I'll take him. Yeah, I mean, like the dude was AFK in a pink ward for like 5
Man.
minutes, right? Like that's the perks. That's the perks cosplay, right? And then the Jace is the summit cosplay. He's got 2 NA imports down on lock.
God.
So I mean,
Oh no.
when I say that, I mean I say it with the greatest amount of respect. Zeus, I hope you come here and have a great time. But I mean, he's a young player, right? Like, last year it was Canna, this year it's Zeus. I mean, he's got some big shoes to fill, and it was his first. I think it's his first international tournament. I mean, so it's like kind of whatever. I mean, the fact that he played either the best or the second best, in my opinion, I still think Faker was better overall and was more consistent in the finals. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. It just felt like tons of ego, tons of just actually like I'm gonna outplay this.
Yep.
It wasn't even close. Why did I
Definitely could
try?
see that. Yeah.
Like it felt a lot of those like, oh wait, I'm actually like I have about 2,000 less gold than I feel like I really usually do. Like it's just a summon thing, right? He goes in, he flashes onto somebody, he's like, oh, I thought I had like 2 more items, but I don't,
Yeah.
and I just die, right? So I don't know, man.
Do you guys think that this is, at least this matchup, felt like the opposite of what we felt like back in the day when Korea was dominating? Because to me, this felt like the Korean team versus the LPL team, but vice versa. Where like in game 1, they were down like 3 or like they were down like 8 turret plates or 10 turret plates across the board, right? They were down like 2k gold, but like it didn't matter. We all knew that RNG was winning that game at that point. We're just like, yeah, no, they're just gonna out team fight, out macro them, and that vision denial, like across the board, was disgusting. Like their ability to control the map was insane. Meanwhile, like T1's like great laners, great individual players, like some amazing moments, but like they just can't get across the finish line because like ego, stubbornness in draft, or just like inability
Just terrible macro. Just
terrible macro. Like
such bad macro from T1. Oh my god.
again, like terrible in the context of like world class teams. I think they're still
Yeah.
probably a top 3 team or top 5 team in the world, depending on like how you rate LPL teams, right? But like the reality was that they got gapped by the team that may or may not be the number 1 team in LPL. There are at least 1 or 2 other teams that could do the same thing that RNG does, right? In terms of caliber, that's ridiculous. So. It's just so weird to me that like I was like watching the T1 nameplate. I see Faker on stage, but I'm like, yeah, RNG's gonna out macro this. Like they were going to win more often than not if put in an even map state and even team comps. That's weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder too if my whole thing, the reason why I had also gave the edge to T1, even though I knew RNG was in better form, is because they're in Korea, man. I thought the fans would be that 6th member of the team to will them to victory. I just wanted it so bad for Faker. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But is there any final thoughts on MSI as a whole? If you wanted to talk a little bit more about format, or I don't know, whatever it is, just to wrap up this whole series, this whole tournament.
I did just want to correct myself. The 3 games that Zaya was not picked, she was banned. It was picked twice by RNG and it was
Okay.
banned the 3 games. So I do want to correct myself on that.
Okay,
I see.
so you
Yep.
get it, yeah. Well, that's
Well,
a good ban because it would have been a great.
yeah.
pick.
I mean, hey,
Yeah.
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Both red side games, RNG also banned Gwen. It looks like Gwen, like RNG actually knew what they were doing. They actually also had closer red side games. Not all red side games were made equal in this series, guys. We
Yeah.
should also at least give a little of attention to RNG. Like,
Yeah,
we've
they're
only
the
talked about
winners.
T1, but RNG did win.
Yeah.
I think it's time Wei gets some credit. Like Xiao, I think played amazing in the series, but like Wei literally has beaten Cannon at the last MSI, who was also hyped as the best jungler in the world. And like I don't think Wei gapped Cannon as much, but he did really well. And he gapped Owner in this series. Like, yes, he has Xiao in his back pocket, but you got Faker behind you. Like, not a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, but I have Faker. That's why I can out jungle you."
Right.
Like that 1v2 Viego play in jungle was insane. I don't know what is it with LPL junglers and international finals. Like they just decide, yeah, we're done sandbagging. We're gonna just gap you. JJ comes out of nowhere and gaps Cannon in the world finals. Like I don't get it. And then they don't do anything in the domestically. They just look fine. So I think that LPL needs more credit. Like there was so much gapping being done by a lot of the players.
I definitely think maybe overall they deserve more credit. Definitely on this podcast, we give them a ton of credit though. I think
We do.
it's just so obvious, right? Like LPL has been the best region for at least the last 2 years, right? Since Dan1 lost, has been losing. So I mean I just want to say that I totally called it completely randomly on accident at the first MSI podcast that it was gonna be like RNG T1 is gonna be decided by like who gets
Side
selection.
Yeah.
I totally just randomly commented that, and then now it's been a highly contentious topic, and it is interesting, right? Because the last 3 best of 5s in internationals in the finals have been 5-game series between Chinese and Korean teams, and it always goes down to game 5, and it does kind of feel like it's the game 5 draft that decides the rest of the series. And well, you start to wonder going into MSI format as a whole, maybe one best of 5 is not enough to determine who the best team is. I mean, obviously it's hard to argue because you play 5 whole games, but like I want to see teams adjust. I want to see like I would have loved to see T1 take that, adjust, and play again. And RNG also has to adjust too. Like this would make it so much more interesting, right? And have it not be the finals where you just first discover these things against RNG. Because it's like, yeah, you're the better team, right? But like, are you the better team a week later and or another best of 5 later? And considering how little best of 5s we get every year, it would be really nice to see, right? I don't want to hear copiums or complaints or Korean or Chinese fans complaining about game 5 blue side wins, blah blah blah, we lost because of that, or like one boneheaded draft loses the entire series. It's like it's so underwhelming, and I want another best of 5. I want to see it again. I want the best teams to play each other multiple times because that's the most interesting stuff. I'm really good once. So.
In the NBA, it used to be back in the day, the first round of the playoffs was only a best of 5. And then if you made it past that, it became a best of 7. I don't know if that's feasible in league because you play right after, I don't know how mentally exhausting that is because with the NBA, it's different days. So you have time to recover, but this is kind of like a longer series or like you said, like in soccer, I know at least in the Champions League, they play their championship in 2 stages. They'll play the first like game. It's like a full game on one day. And then a week later, they'll play again at the other person's like hometown or whatever. And they'll play for the full 90 minutes. But the score carries over to the next game. So even if something it was like that, where instead of a best of 7 or whatever, you could have a series for the finals, and then it's like the next day they play the second half, and it's like they could come back. They could have had an overnight session and like been like, okay, this is what we need to do, man. We make adjustments. Bam, next day they could totally surprise, something. And so I think that might be exciting. But I think the overall sentiment is that this format has sucked because there was a lot of meaningless games that we're just kind of drudging our way through, and then the matchups we want to see, it's like done so quick, and it is very underwhelming. I just hope, again, like I said, it doesn't take away from RNG, because now I want to just pick your brains real quickly on this. This was the first time also that I think it was an all Chinese, like native Chinese team has won, right? If I'm correct. So if you're a Chinese fan, I think that's got to feel a little special because, like, I'm just thinking, like, if NA won anything, first of all, that'd be amazing. But imagine if it was all like JoJo Pyun's and Danny's, like all NA residents. Like, wouldn't that make it feel like, whoa, we really did it from our own systems and our own thing? I mean, I think for me, if I was in a Chinese, in that region, I think that would be a little more special for me. But what do you guys think, real quickly on that?
Yeah, I think it's really important that this happened. For reference, the last two times that RNG did win, they had a Karsa, so he's a Chinese speaker. So the Chinese and all Chinese speaking team has.
Yeah.
Won. We're not going to get into the details, but yes, this is the first time like all born in mainland China people have won in a team. And I will also say like the concept of like having two Koreans on your team and being like that being the reason why you beat the 5 Koreans has always been nonsense. Other than the case of the Shy and Rookie just being the best, so yeah, yes, they were carrying. But like, is it weird to me that like 2 Koreans are better than 5? Then I don't know. I feel like when you have 3 or 4 Chinese players and a Korean or 2 imports like Doinbei, for example, like
Yeah.
They're imports, sure, but like, why is it that the 5 better like if you have the best players, right, and that's the only reason you're winning, why is it 5 of them can't win? So I think it's a big deal. I think it's great for like national pride and whatever that all that stuff. But I think even more importantly, I think it's just good to cement that like there are just like less and less excuses. Like this time you could say it's the pink, right? But like they're just gonna keep if they keep winning. Like it's been 5 3-2 matches in a row now that LPL has won game 5, and oftentimes I think in at least 3 of the cases I can remember, it's just LPL had like a draft, they knew what they were doing, and then like LCK just decided to pick like garbage.
Yeah.
Like, Don1 last MSI was just picked absolute crap because they were just like overthinking things, right? Or like they just, I don't know, too cocky. So I think it's a big deal, but at the same time, RNG has won 3 times now, so I don't think a lot of people will actually really think too much about it. Yeah, that's also fine. I think we're kind of getting to the point where it's normal for LPL to win, but it's nice that when LPL wins, it's close.
Yeah. Okay. Alistair, you got thoughts on that?
For me, obviously, I can't really relate as much, but I don't think it. I think it's relevant, but I don't think it's too important. Just at least to me, because like if you look at like hockey, for example, right? Half of the NHL is Canadian.
Yeah.
There's like 6 Canadian teams. That doesn't stop teams from celebrating that an American team won the NHL.
Right.
People aren't saying, "Oh, the Canadians won because 70% of the team is Canadian," right? They're saying the Blackhawks won, or this other team won. If you look at something like the UFC, the current heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou, is from Cameroon. He trains, as far as I'm aware, he trains in the United States. Cameroon still celebrated him when he won.
Yeah.
It's kind of all over the place, and I think it's a cool stat, but I don't think it overall is that important to, at least. I mean, obviously it's like different for me, but that's how I personally view it.
No, I totally agree. I don't think it's I mean, it's interesting, I think, to talk about, and it's, I think, interesting for narrative purposes specifically, but when it comes to like actual like, I'm trying to build a team or understand how strong players and teams are. Dude, nationality doesn't matter, right? We're especially in NA when we have some of the best Korean and Chinese imports come in and look like worse than our native players. Nationality literally, I feel like, just doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter where you're from. All that matters is what your practice environment is, what your teammates are, and where your coaching is, just who you are in that environment, right? Because we can see players come to NA, look like absolutely terrible, and then go back to whatever region they're from and just look great again. And it's sure there's a lot of aspects that go into that, but at the end of the day, right, you can get the most random person from the most random country, put them in LPL or LCK, and if they have the talent, they'll just do good, right? I bet you if we sent, I don't know, Doublelift to LPL and he was there for 3 years, he would become really, really insane, right? He'd probably win something at some point. But it's just NA. It's just the practice environment. It doesn't matter what your nationality is. So, I mean, that's my take on it, because we are so clearly defined as the example of, it really doesn't matter where you come from, because you can do some really weird stuff over here.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to cheer for TLS just because they're 4 imports or 5 imports. We didn't
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
LMQ any less when they were literally just a five Koreans on a team.
They were a funny
5
team.
Chinese,
Like
yeah.
people started
Yeah.
becoming fans of them. They were only here for like a year or so, but like
I
people
love
were
them.
fans of them.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
hilarious.
A lot of people did.
And
Well, but then
you
it-
know, I
but
bet
then-
you
personality
they-
in a lot of the bottom teams.
But then I guess
Maybe.
it would just go though, like, do people really want that? Because then you'll have people who complain about the import rule, right? Because they don't want to have, 5 imports from China or Korea and
People are
then
gonna
have that
complain
as our
about
inner.
something no matter what you do. We've
Oh,
seen
I
this
agree.
time and time again, especially because one of the major sources of information right here for our community is Reddit.
Yeah.
So
Only in League, baby.
people are going to complain. You're not
Yeah.
going to please everyone.
All right. Well, so let's wrap MSI up. I think it was tidy in a bow, but hopefully next year it's much better. I hope I hope Riot has heard the community from all of this and plans better. Maybe there's even more emphasis on MSI because it really did feel underwhelming. But let's transition because now LCS doesn't start until June 18th, so there's a little time here, which means it gives time for pros and all of us as well to play on the durability patch, which has been highly anticipated and. It's been on Reddit. It's been on, social medias, people talking about how much they love it. That seems to be the general sentiment. But let's dig into this a little bit. Durability patch has been out. We've all kind of tested it. So I'd like to kind of get your experiences on it. What have you seen? What have you tried? Give us the inside scoop on any discoveries you might have.
Well, first of all, thank God that they did this. Like a lot of the stuff we complain about long term, like eventually Riot does put it in, which, like, to their credit, they more so than a lot of game companies do, except for the format of the tournaments. They do a decent job of like patching their game and trying to do this. I think this was definitely necessary. You could argue, should more have been done? Should less have been done? Probably a little more should have been done, but this is the right direction.
Yeah.
And I haven't felt like personally, I play mostly A-Rims. I did play some Rift, but like I haven't felt just like the game going back to like, oh, I have a little bit of time to think between like moves, and as an AD carry, I can breathe, and like I was jumped on by a Rengar and I survived, and I was like, what?
That's crazy.
That's not on
That's like
A-Rim.
revolutionary, by the way.
A-Rim Rengar does like 10% more damage or some crap like that. So I was like, what? How did I survive that? I didn't even build armor or health. I really like it. I think that generally OP, in my mind, I think enchanters are still good, even though shields and heals are nerfed. And I think AD carries are probably the overall biggest winners. However, I do think there are some notable exceptions in other roles. And I think this was a necessary change, and I just hope they keep patching.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'll go last. I probably have the most to say about it because I've played the most Summoner's Rift. So I'll let you guys.
It's
go
true.
ahead.
All right, I will go next then. So, I'm just gonna say that I think for the overall state of the game, patch is great. To an extent, obviously there's some things that need to be trimmed. Definitely for me, who likes to play cheesy builds with like assassins and stuff, who build like tank and utility to really cheese how much damage there is in the game. You can't do that anymore, right? So tank Akali is pretty dead right now. If you try to build Frostfire and Akali, you actually do just no damage. You can't kill anybody. The new build is Divine Sunder Akali, right? If you're in a bad matchup, Divine Sunder is what's up. Obviously, though, if you're like not in a bad matchup and you're in a fine matchup, just go AP. It's still really good. Akali can still one-shot you. The same philosophy applies where she doesn't care that you're tanky. She just needs to be tanky enough to get her full combos off, to get enough rotations off. So I think there's a lot of champions in the game that are kind of like that. So some burstier champions that you think would be worse are a bit better just because they just couldn't live long enough to get their combos off. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, enchanters are broken. I do think also ADCs are also a big win. The biggest win for me though are Leandri's users in mid lane. I think those are the most OP champs in the game. Specifically, Anivia. I think that is the by far one of the most disgusting champions to come out of this patch. Anivia already got hotfixed, still so unbelievably stupid. If you don't have the exact right counter to beat Anivia, you just lose the game. She just 1v9. She's just so broken. Does so much damage, hard to kill. You have to kill her twice. So yeah, if you want to farm some elo and you just need a little bit of practice, maybe CSing with her, Anivia's broken.
I'm logging in right after this. You sold me.
I used to
champs
play
are really good.
Yeah, I used to play with a guy who just always played Anivia. We would first pick it, and it would be banned against us all the time. he wasn't even good that back then. So like, trust me, guys, Anivia, if you get good at her, so unbelievably unbalanced. You just can't play the game with her if you don't have the right tools in your kit. And even then, you have to kill her twice, right? So
Yeah,
Jesus
nice.
Christ.
All right, Alistair, you can head it up.
All right, so let me start off by saying, obviously, I'm biased because my role is probably the biggest winner of this patch. Um, I I think this is the best change that Riot has done to the game in a long time. Everything feels so much better, and I think there is much more opportunity for counterplay. And I personally don't think there are any real major losers except for bad assassin players. Assassins are still very strong. You just have to actually, hit your spells for
Yeah,
good stuff.
you actually got to do
Zed
something.
can't Zed can't just ult you, E auto you, miss every single Q, auto you again, proc electrocute, and kill you. Zed has to hit spells.
Yeah.
Kiana has to hit all her spells. Akali and Katarina, those are different. Those are different. They'll kill you anyways because they don't
Yeah.
have counterplay as champions. Um, I think
Yeah.
that I mean, hey, that's just
Mitchell's nodding his
Katarina,
head.
Katarina is disgusting,
Category is
man.
disgusting. Wait, newsflash to newer players to League, by the way, if you joined the League in like the last 2 or 3 years, Assassins didn't used to just kill everything. They used to only kill supports who were underfed and AD carries. That was all they were there for. They were there to
And
kill
mages.
squishies. And
Yeah.
mages, yeah. Squishy mages, right? They weren't supposed to be able to kill bruisers. They were not supposed to ever be able to even like dent a tank. Like Zed just not hurting a tank was normal back then. The last
Yeah.
like
Well,
four,
I
like a
Unless
full
he was
combo
super
Zed
fed,
would,
but
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
well,
sure.
there are certain meta builds, right? Like, so I think there's like still some Zed builds out there, or not even like Zed builds, but like you can still get away with like stupid stuff like Divine Sunderer, Black Cleaver, Blade of the Rune King. You can still abuse those things like they were before back then to
Hmm.
actually take these assassins and still kill tanks. I think that's still a problem in the game right now, honestly.
Yeah,
Where
yeah. There's still
people
way
just
more
shouldn't do
damage
that.
now than there was back then, relatively. I'm just saying that like people were complaining like, assassins can't do anything. I'm like, that's kind of the point. They're
Yeah.
supposed to
Yeah.
be specifically for assassinating, not causing like a genocide of everything on the other side in one hit,
yeah.
right?
And this has been a personal complaint for me for a while, where Riot, especially with like a bunch of new champions, you look at something like Pike or Senna, where they, because every role kind of had their own niche. So you'd have like assassins who were good into these but bad into these, 80 carries were good into these and bad into these, and every kind of role had that. But then they start implementing champions that kind of fit multiple roles, so it almost feels like they don't have counters at times. And Senna and Pike are amazing examples of this, because Senna, you have this support who's also an AD carry who gets to free scale because she has more range than almost any champion in the lane, and she also has sustain, and she has self peel, and she has global peel. So it's like you kind of just have to one shot her in lane, otherwise it feels terrible. And then you have fasting sound, which makes it even worse. Or you have Pike, who, yeah, he's a support, but he's going to 1v1 your squishies the entire game
Yeah.
on 0 income because of his ultimate. It's stuff like that, and I think that this patch, and well, because a lot of that like fed off of just the amount of damage,
Yeah.
and it feels like now in lane, I've played against a lot of Senna this patch, and I feel like I can actually breathe in lane. I feel like I can actually survive without just losing half my health to Senna at level 1
Yeah.
because she sat in a bush. Um, and I feel like even against, like, even just because you necessarily, or even if not necessarily, getting hooked is a death sentence right away. It won't
Yeah.
automatically lose you lane. To be fair, I may have different example or different experiences because my favorite rune page is going precision and then resolve secondary, because I've been playing a lot of Vayne, a lot of Kog'Maw, a lot of Twitch.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Scaling champs that kind of tend to have like weaker laning phases, and that's been what I've been having a lot of fun with. But
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I lost a game to a Frostfire Gauntlet Ginsu's Rageblade Kog'Maw. I was not happy about that. That guy was freaking shredding my entire team. I eventually got Hurricane too. I was like, I can't kill him. I can't kill. I literally have Divine Sunderer and freaking Death Dance, and I can't kill this
yeah, I do think
Kog'Maw.
that I do think that builds on champions like Vayne, Kog'Maw, Veigar, Shyvana, where you
Yeah.
just kind of like have a couple damage items and then just go full tank and then you're unkillable. I do think that needs to be addressed somehow.
Oh, big
I'm
time.
not exactly sure how, but I think the idea that you're just going to play champs that have a lot of innate damage in their kit, and then you just build full tank because no
Yeah.
counterplay is
Take a
pretty
collie,
bad.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean to be fair, you can just say a collie. There's no counterplay in the first place, but
I
Yeah.
mean, take a Kali, take Katarina. Like, there's a lot of these champions that they just have so much overlated, like sustained damage in their kits, like top with all their other utilities and options. Senna for me is just an abomination. Like, I think like it's
she's always
nice
been.
that at least in lane, right? Maybe you're not getting chunk level 1 for half your HP, but um, dude, she gets too tanky to the point she has too much damage and sustain that if you are not dramatically ahead of the curve and the Senna isn't dramatically behind, God, she just 1v1s you. Doesn't matter what champion you are, she'll just 1v1 your ass. And, um, you jump on her, if you don't kill her, she runs away and kites you for ages. They need to remove her slow or reduce her utility in some way. I'm okay with her doing damage, and I'm okay with her scaling, whatever. She has way too much utility, though, for an ADC. Um,
For a
Yeah,
support.
I've
for
been
support,
liking
ADC, whatever, like,
yeah, I've been liking Senna
I've been
quite a
saying
bit.
it for a long time. Senna should be a supportive style AD carry rather than AD carry style support. There is a
whatever it
difference,
is, yeah.
but
Just
it's not healthy having a champion like that played in the support role who infinitely scales. And is at least if they want to keep her as a support, nerf her range down to 500. Her
yeah,
base range is 600. For context, that is tied for the third highest base range in the game, behind Caitlyn and Annie. Caitlyn
yeah.
has
Just tied with
650.
Ash.
Ash is tied as well. Oh,
Yeah,
behind,
Ash is also
behind,
tied
behind,
at
yeah.
600.
Yeah,
I will say the
But
nuance about Senna's auto range is that she does have a delay between her autos. Like her autos freeze her in place where most AD carries can warp block, other than Callista, pretty well with that.
yeah,
So it does lower her effective range a little bit, but 600 is still ridiculous. Like when you're
the
winning,
issue
it's just the
is,
dumbest thing.
Kevin, the issue is with Senna because like when you auto attack, right, you get a small burst of movement speed. You can early cancel your auto attack animation with your Q, which is much faster, and then just run away. So you can get
yeah, you get a slow.
essentially two auto attacks off before they can get before they can necessarily get into range.
That is
Especially because
true.
now the build right now is fleet, so
Yeah.
the counterplay is so much more minimal.
Well, they need to remove the slow too. Why does that thing
Yeah, they
slow for
remove the
free now? You
slow.
used to have to at
Because
least take glacial to make that
Hmm.
work.
Well, it's because Glacial got reworked. That's the entire that was literally their entire reasoning.
She
Because that was
didn't.
Senna's main
She
rune and
doesn't
it got
need that
removed.
much power. She's so broken.
They gotta stop making it's just like I don't know, man. Senna was so hyped because of Lucian's wife thingy, and now like we're forced. We have to make her popular, right?
She's
They
just
just
better
trap
than Lucian in
themselves.
most ways,
They
by the
trap
way.
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Supports
I
shouldn't be
think,
carry champs. That's at least damage carries.
but I
That's
think
just bottom line.
overall, yeah, the sentiment though that I think we've all kind of grasped is with a little bit of tuning to specific champions and maybe to some classes, right? I do think that bruisers overall are broken with Death's Dance, but all their other items except Divine Sunder kind of feel bad right now. So I think they should definitely nerf Death's Dance, but then they probably need to adjust the other items, right? Because I think Gore Drinker's got to be like honestly one of the worst bruiser items right now.
Nerf
It's
Death
just
Dance. Talk about think about removing the item.
yeah, one of
Just
those
just
things. I don't
get
know.
rid of get rid of it.
Just get Death Dance out of here because it's really holding back the rest of the Bruiser kit, right? Like if you can't buff Gore Drinker because Death Dance is too stupidly broken, but then Gore Drinker is a crappy item. I just want to go Divine Sunder or literally every single champion, right? So
Yeah, and then you also have
as a
to factor in that you can just build a Maw of Malmortius with Death Dance.
yeah, let's not bounce. I also think Force of Nature. Oh my God, right? Like if you are worried about dot champions, it doesn't matter what champion you are, just build Force of Nature. You can actually just become not unkillable, but you can do a lot of stuff against those dot champions. So a lot of adjusting needs to happen. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's in a good direction.
I've dabbled with I've been playing enchanters and tanks just to see, how I felt like those would be, affected quite a bit, with all of this, even with the healing and shielding nerfs. And honestly, I really feel like that's true. Like enchanters are really good.
God, yeah.
Karma's freaking awesome right now. And then vice versa, playing some tanks, it's like it feels really good too. Like I think I played an Alistair game and like I had like 35 assists It was like pretty crazy because like, and I had like only died like 2 or 3 times, and I just felt like it felt meaningful to be a tank again. And luckily the game didn't go super long because by that time ADCs are just melting everyone, which again feels right, you know. So overall, I think I've been happy with what I've seen, even though, you know, I haven't been winning too many games, unfortunately. But I mean, is there any other like hidden tech that you guys have figured out, or any other champs or builds that you want to discuss in the build before we move on or wrap it up?
Yeah, I got one. It's not that hidden, but like I mentioned, Mob Malwardy's Death Stance combination is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing Kog'Maw into that, do not build Rage Blade. Build Quick Blades. Permanent W, extra range, and you're gonna go right through that Maw Death Stance.
Wow.
Yes,
Quick
exciting.
play. Oh, because of the permanent W uptime.
Yeah, you get permanent W, so you get permanent rage, and you get you get double permanent range because of lethal tempo, and you get, I mean, you're doing physical damage, and you're doing the magic damage, and you're doing the true damage because you're going Kraken Slayer. Don't build
It,
Shield Bow. Shield Bow's a bad item. I
so
thought
is
it was
the
going to be
rest of the
better
build
with
just
this
like
patch.
crit essentially? Just a crit
Yeah,
build
you're
with
pretty much going crit
quick
cog.
plates?
With that,
Mm.
I've personally have been doing most of my games. I'm going Kraken Slayer, Phantom Dancer, Quick Blades. Most of my
Okay.
Kog'Maw games.
I'll
Wow.
try it in my next A run.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that scaling is obviously, I mean, everybody's pretty on point. It's just way too strong right now. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's just because of the durability patch and the kits. I think the main offender to why scaling is so good right now is objective bounties.
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
way too easy to get them. They start at 3k gold and they stay for too long, and it's so much easier to survive in lane, right? So if you actually do fall behind, right, as a scaling champion, you are going to come online at some point and you're going to get those objective bounties and you're just going to win the game. That's what I felt like is decide like I've tried to play early game junglers, early game top laners, even just to see what they look like because I was curious, and I felt like getting ahead was meaningless because at some point in solo queue especially, right? And I could even see this coming in competitive because of how important team comps are. You're gonna give over a bounty, your own personal bounties. You're gonna give over an objective bounty. You can't
Mm-hmm.
defend every single turret, and that's just enough to make it unwinnable for you. So yeah, something that's definitely just like an inevitability, right? There's certain comps where it's just like you look at it, it's like God, they have to play so terribly for us to win. And I think that it's never felt as dire as it has before, right? When there's a ton of damage in the game, there's always a way to come back, no matter what kind of comp you have, because well, it doesn't matter how scaling they are if they have 0 HP, right? So I do think that like the differences in comps are more game deciding now than they were before,
Nice.
especially in solo queue. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
I personally would disagree. I do think that early game is still very important.
Yeah.
Because I've personally, I don't think scaling is the only way to go. Because I've personally had a lot of games where you just roll them early and that's that. Even like as a full early game comp, you just if you smash them, it doesn't really matter. I mean, like if you're playing an early game comp and you're not winning early, obviously you're gonna lose. Like if you're just going even, like you lost. Um, I do think that scaling is much stronger. Um, but again, obviously I'm biased. I'm an AD carry main. I do prefer where games kind of aren't necessarily always snowball fests because I've always enjoyed the game when it or enjoyed the game more when it feels like every role has their own job. You know what I mean? They all have an opportunity to show what they're good at. Junglers, they get their opportunity early to path and make good ganks happen, get the early objectives. And if they do that really well, it doesn't matter if there's a scaling vein, right? The game's just over by then.
Yeah,
So
So
that's
yeah,
interesting.
I definitely think the perspective is skewed because I do play mostly jungle and sometimes
mm,
support when I play solo queue. But yeah, like as a jungle perspective, it does feel like sometimes you steamroll the early game like a good jungler's supposed to do, and it gets to a certain point where the game's just out of your hands, right? And that's always been the case depending on your jungler, but it feels even more so the case because of how important levels are, how junglers are tend to just kind of behind in levels compared to their solo laners, and Yeah, it just gets away from you. It's just like, well, no, it doesn't feel like anything I do matters, right? Yeah, we're really
I mean,
ahead.
that happens
If
every role, though. To be fair.
it does, but I just think it's more pronounced just because of how objective bounties swing the scaling team's favor, more so than it did before. And I'm
I
even
don't know.
talking more.
I'm still biased towards objective bounties. I still think they're I still think they're a good addition. I agree they could use some tuning, but I do think they're a good addition.
No, I think they're good. I just don't think they should start at 3K, and then that when they start at 3K, you can get like multiple objective bounties in the same time, and the
Yeah.
cooldown. I think they lowered the cooldown, but it's still like there's a window where like you go 3K down, you can get like 2 or 3 objective bounties, and just like artificially swing ahead in
Yeah.
gold for
The
some
gold.
reason.
Yeah.
So that kind of tuning, I think, is like happens in a ton of games because 3K down is like that's totally winnable. That's totally normal. That happens almost all the games. So that's where I think it needs tuning. Like it should be much farther off. Where I think objective bounty is like 5K something.
Yeah.
Well, if you're jungling and you do want to be useful early, but not completely worthless late, play Graves. Just play Graves. Play the build with the whatever that pokey item is called, Umbral Glaive, and you'll just kill all the words for the rest of eternity. And you don't you're not a late game monster, but you can still one shot someone if you really wanted to, and still be useful.
Yeah.
Your smoke screen is one of the most annoying abilities ever put in the game, and it's ranged. It's very easy to put. Otherwise, if you're a top lane main, I would recommend you learn Ornn. I don't think he's Giga busted, but he can make 80 carries busted after level 14. And it's like he never gets really
Yeah.
removed from the game. Like you learn Ornn and you're evergreen. Like that character does damage, is tanky, can engage, and can make everyone win the late game almost by default because his Ornn items are great.
Yeah.
So
I,
I would just say put some stocks in there.
I'm gonna like sort of agree, but mostly disagree. If there's one top lane champion that you should learn to carry your solo queue games, it's Gwen. That champ is unreal in the top lane right now. Like
Yeah.
the fact that she's tankier is just like, oh my god, you can't push her out of lane anymore. So that would be my thing for Gwen. Graves is actually a lot weaker than I thought he was gonna be. I thought he was gonna be giga broken. When I was playing about BBE, the way the patch works out, right, him being tankier kind of fits into his thing. He has like a 47% win rate or something. He is went from like being probably one of the best champions in the game to just being pretty good, but like unexpectedly worse than I thought. I think it's the range thing. I think so many champions with great zoning tools and range are just really good right now. Even if Graves is good, it's like, God, what do you do against Anivia and Victor and stuff
Yeah.
that are just you can't one shot
True.
them because they're ahead in levels from you too? Oh my god. Miserable. I hate mid lane mages right now.
Nice.
I guess I was just fed in the games I played. I didn't feel he was that bad, but I could see your point. Like especially with range becoming better and people not getting one shot as easily.
Dude, there's just like when you go like I feel like this meta is just the dream for like the control mage mid laners right now. It's like
Mm.
you can't get one shot by assassins. You get rewarded for scaling, and your favorite item Leandri's is probably one of the best in the game right now. I think just mid lane mages that are not bursty are so broken. I think
I
they're the
mean, to
biggest
be
winners by
fair, the
far.
quad pen mage build is still extremely broken.
Yeah, it's still very good, but
I do
yeah,
also want to say that
force of
this is
nature.
something we said a while ago where the meta really needs to just be reset to something like tank tops, whatever jungle,
Yeah.
full mage mid, 80 carries and enchanters. We've been saying this for a while. It finally happened. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, then
that's
you have
true. I can't wait to
stupid
see it in
Gwen.
pro. And
I
then we
mean,
have
Yeah.
Gwen,
again,
who just is
Freaking
immune to
Gwen,
all the
man. Who
rules.
breaks all the rules. That champ needs to be removed too. There's so many champs that need to be removed, man. Gwen is actually an abomination.
Hey, if you ask T1, it doesn't need to be removed. We'll leave it up
Oh my
Hey.
gosh.
Take it.
every
I can get
Ego.
damn
Jason
time,
to it. It's
guys.
fine, guys. Oh, I will say, dude, like if you're bad at laning, there's never been a better time to play League of Legends. Oh my god. Like,
Yeah.
I've been dumpstered in lane like quite a bit, and I'm like, oh my god, I actually lived with 50 HP. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. I played that terribly, and I lived. Let's go.
What a
I love that
time to
feeling.
be alive.
Doublelift was complaining on his like sort of video review where he doesn't like it because he feels like he can't punish bad players' mistakes as much because they get to
Hmm.
live, and they just
Ah.
don't get to fall behind as much. So maybe
Every
that
time he
also
doesn't
can
die to a gank, though, it's also for the same. The jungler probably feels the same damn thing, or the mid laner.
true.
It's
Yeah.
like,
So it's kind of like one of those feelings that's like it's only specific to you because you felt it happen to you right in that
True.
moment. But I mean, I think it's fair. Like I'm feeling it too. It's like I'm kind of just running it down in top lane. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I still
Yeah.
win.
Definitely good point. I think if anything, hopefully objective bounties have made it clear to people that you really don't and shouldn't quit games because the general community is not going to be good at closing out games. They will throw, they will die with that, kill streak, that bounty. They'll throw objectives, and with it, hopefully the mentality has shifted where people who are losing just don't tilt off the face of the planet and are like, hey, look, objective bounties exist. We can come back. Like, don't worry. I do think it needs tweaking, but I do love the fact that even if you're losing, you feel like, no, we got a chance. There's objective bounty. Like, there are ways to come back into this game. And because we're playing against people who aren't professional and no coordination really, then they will probably give up some of those bounties, make mistakes, and you're right back in it. So anything else before we wrap things up? I'm sure we still got a lot of experimenting to do. Alistair, what you got?
I got one more honorable mention.
All right.
I haven't said yet. Renata, oh my god.
Yeah.
Renata is
54%.
stupid. I mean, she's always been stupid in the right hands, but
Mm-hmm.
Renata's really good right now.
It's like 53 or 54% win rate right now. Yeah, she's insane.
Yeah, I mean Renata's always been good, but especially with like the durability patch for her W and a lot of the champs right now, if she hits ult on them, she's just gonna demolish their entire team.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
nuts.
Okay.
All
I
right,
always said
fine, we're
Renata
doing
was
those.
giga broken.
I mean, she's always
Yeah.
been, like I said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Zillion. Zillion is another just absolutely S tier broken champion right now. Oh my god. If you can't kill him and shut him down early, Zillion runs around, slows you, revives you, CCs you, and he's just laughing in your face. He's an old man. He's just
Old man running
yeah.
around.
Oh, and Talia. Oh my god, there's so
Oh
many
yeah, that's right.
Talia. There's so many broken champions
Talia's
right
a
now.
lot.
I mean,
Oh my God.
realistically, the way I felt is like, with durability patch, it was a bit overblown how much it's going to change because I feel like if you were good last patch, unless you are unless you're an 80 carry or you're like specific champions and other roles, you're still really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Your
fair.
build probably just has to adjust, or your playstyle just has to adjust a little bit. Like Riven. Riven is still very strong, but she's not giga broken because you don't get one shot level 1 with Ignite, right? She
Mhm.
can't one shot you level with Ignite, so a lot of her matchups are easier in those early phases. But she's still stupid broken, like as a champion, right? So, yeah, I think just people's roles have shifted a bit. But yeah.
It'll be interesting when the pros, start. Well, I know they've had some time off, but I'd love to see. Like, I can't wait for pro play because I want to see what develops in this new meta that's going to form because of this patch. I think it's like you said, Worlds is going to be a different game. Like by that point, because people have going to find things that it's just going to be completely different than what we saw. Hopefully that's the change. Okay, any final thoughts? Final words? Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, so two things. I really hope that. So the fact is that MSI's finals had the most viewership ever of an MSI final.
Ooh.
It was a 2.1 million concurrent viewers for English, or not English, but non-Chinese viewer base, because the Chinese viewer base is hard to count, right? So I really hope Riot doesn't take that and think, yeah, we don't need to change anything, because I think this is a really good tournament in the sense that there was so much seemingly social media pushback and pro player pushback that they just want the format to be a little better. Like, come on, we can do better. I don't think it'll be implemented by the time of Worlds. I think the venues are already getting booked, so they can't necessarily make a lower bracket because of the scheduling or whatever. But I hope by next year we have a better MSI or more tournaments or whatever. The other thing I wanted to mention, we didn't mention it in the podcast, but TSM's internal investigation was done.
Oh yeah.
We're not going to go into it too much
wrong.
they essentially said that it was actually a joke because all it said was Reggie did nothing illegal. He never sexually harassed or like physically abused or whatever, did nothing illegal in his time at TSM. And I was like, that's what he was being accused of, though. No one cared about this. Like, it was a whole different thing. So that was the investigation. We're still waiting on the Riot push, the one that Riot's pushing. That's probably a little bit more targeted and like might come up with something. Who knows? It might not do anything. It might just be covering for TSM.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. So that's TSM investigating TSM in a nutshell.
Right. Well, you
Hilarious.
can't just bring that up and like just say, let's just not talk about it, because
Yeah.
there's no way Riot is gonna investigate TSM and be like, we find you guilty, you're out of the
Yeah.
league, right? There's just no way. Like what is Riot gonna
Well,
do
they
or
don't.
say?
They don't have to put TSM out of the league. They just have to put Reggie out of the league. Because,
Yeah,
in my opinion, Riot
you
can't
can't-
afford to let another like harassment scandal happen when they had their own internal one 3 or 4 years ago, which they
True.
more or less have like done better from. Sure, but like it's just not good. TSM is not worth Riot's like legacy as a company because they're trying to become a big shot, right? They've already made a lot of big game stuff.
I
I
don't know
don't
if
think
that's
TSM's
true.
worth that much. Okay,
I don't know if that's
Reggie's
true.
not worth that much. TSM
I don't
is
know
worth
if
that
that's
much. They
true
can keep
either.
TSM
Reggie is
without Reggie.
TSM. They're the same right now. He's a
I
private
don't-
Is
company.
he is
I
he
would
adding
disagree,
value
Mitchell.
now, or is he taking value away? That's the thing. He might have equaled TSM in the past, but is he adding value
No,
to that company?
That doesn't matter. He's the CEO of TSM. It doesn't matter if he's adding or taking away value. He's the CEO of TSM. What he wants, he gets at TSM. So if you want to get rid of Reggie, TSM's coming with him.
It depends if they're structured with like a board or anything like that where they could actually he could be voted out, but I don't know the structure because it's not publicly traded. If he set it up that he's the dictator, then that's how it's set up. And you're right, Mitchell, like nothing happens. But if it's run like traditional companies, there's usually a way to oust somebody if necessary. But again, I don't know those details.
If he could fire someone on a whim and they're literally packing their desk a day later, I think he's the dictator. Like, I mean, that's just like how I've seen companies and how I've worked and kind of how I've seen people talk about it, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is one of those situations where it is like, oh, he's just the giga boss. You can't if you want TSM in your league, you can't do anything about it. If you don't want TSM in your league, then you can get rid of Reggie. But for most context, they're kind of synonymous. TSM is kind of just Reginald right now. Like,
Yeah.
there's no
Well,
Lino,
like-
there's no all these other people, right? So
I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be a really long time before they can rebuild their brand, honestly. And I think if Reggie's stubborn and he's, ego is as big as it is and he's not going anywhere, I really think that's going to even slow down the process even more. Nobody wants to be attached to him right now. And so we'll have to see. I mean, because TSM, if anything, that was a place where you're like, oh, okay. I mean, that's the franchise to go to, right? But now with all of this stuff, I definitely think it's lost that luster. So, man, sad to see my former team go down the drain, but that's all right. Yeah, well, and X-Smithy. Well, I hope he does well at least. But anything else? Any final thoughts? You guys good? All right. So, one thing I wanted to mention before we wrap it up is, do you guys want to do Fantasy League of Legends for LCS next split?
sure.
Summer split.
Yeah, for summer split. We could do the app Sleeper HQ. There's an app there. And anyways, for those of you who are listeners, I will put out a tweet about it and I'll post it in Discord. If you want to join in, I think we can have up to 10 people in there. It'd be fun to do Fantasy LCS. So if you're interested, then I'll make a tweet about it. I'll get some info out on our Discord as well on how we can set that up and do that, because I think it'd be pretty fun. Then there's more at stake. There's actually skin in the game. Maybe we'll come up with a prize or something for first place. But all right, well, that's going to wrap it up for us. I want to thank my co-hosts again, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, for all their wise insights. It might be a week or two before we get back on, since LCS doesn't start until June 18th. But until then, enjoy this durability patch. Enjoy your climb. Try not to be too toxic. And we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.